Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. I have my guest, Randy Kirk, here with me. We're going to discuss how fast can Tesla full self-driving and Teslabot change the world. How fast and how much can it change, 2024, 25, 26, et cetera. So, Randy, you've been following Teslabot a lot, Optimus, and they've been amazing thing with the new video where it's doing yoga. It's they said it's doing end-to-end visual training. And you've talked to many of the roboticists and stuff about how quickly we could make these robots. So, and also we're going to talk about FSD. So which of those things have the most impact, FSD or Teslabot next year?
Next year. Oh, that's a good one. Well, I happen to have become convinced that the robot will actually be the big driver before the car will be.
Okay.
Or before the robot car will be. So if as Elon says that Tesla is an AI company specializing in robotics, we have two robots. We have the car robot and we have the humanoid robot are the two robots that will drive the, and again, this is not me. Elon has said it over and over and over again. The great percentage of the value of Tesla was going to be the robot car. Mm-hmm. And then more recently, he said the Optimus robot will eclipse all of the rest of the Tesla world in terms of the value that it provides to the world and to the value that it provides to the stockholders. It's not going to be a close contest. Now, which one's first? Which one actually impacts the fastest? Well, again, I know I have detractors. I have people that don't think I'm right. People that think I'm too optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm too much of a bull. But I don't see any reason in the world. I cannot find a limiting factor that would keep these robots from being offered for sale or for rent by the third quarter of next year, of 2024.
So for me, I look at it in terms of like, how much does each one multiply the existing Tesla businesses, right? So FSD comes out, Q4, Q1, version 12, no longer beta. That is a $2 billion drop to the bottom line because they have deferred revenue. They say, okay, we've delivered all the features. So just accounting wise, we say we recognize it, $2 billion drop to the bottom line. And then every time you go forward a quarter, now instead of recognizing half of $12,000, $6,000 for every one I sold, and you're selling $100,000, $200,000 a quarter, instead of $6,000, that's $12,000 because I recognize the full thing, right? So then that's, if it's 200,000 per quarter next year, then that's an extra $1.2 billion per quarter, right? So that's substantial, given the fact that this year we've been only recognizing about $1 billion of profit per quarter.
Total. Yeah.
So total. So financially, the big deal. The interesting thing about so FSD, nice big financial hit if that happens next year. And also the sign-up rate, signing up, training them for China, for Europe, getting the take rate up from almost nothing up to the US, 15, 20% level, right? Mm-hmm. That's more sales in the other regions, which would mean, you're tripling the amount of sales. For Teslabot, they make 10,000, 20,000, which is the level that Agility Robotics say their factory will do. They built their factory in about a year, if they can do that. The parts that Tesla is making in their new factory, they don't need to make new batteries. Batteries already got. They don't need to make new chips. They can just increase their order of chips from whatever 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. They got that under control. Just someone else making the chips. So then it's just the actuators, the stuff in the arms and the legs that they're going to do. Other parts are still common. So just increasing that number of those parts in a factory that they suppose they're just finishing now would be able to make them to easily 10,000, 100,000 of those bots, which if they do that, and the software seems to be working great, they're doing the yoga and all that and visual training stuff. So then they can then put those 10,000, 20,000 into their factories. And then if they can, and we've seen in that Autoline network thing where things are snapping into place, there's all these tasks that are highly useful to the assembly of their cars that they can already do. Their Model Y has things that a bot can do very easily, just taking a bumper, lightweight enough, and then snapping it into place the only way it can fit, right?
Right.
So they can do easily 20, 30% of the manufacturing of the car as they currently stand with the bots. And if they can get the whole unboxed process line to happen, then the number of tasks that would be bot doable would go up to 80%, maybe 90%. And the construction rate from the unboxed process would be, instead of doing one car going through in 10 hours from the beginning of the factory to the end, I'm splitting it all up, and then it's like 1 hour, 2 hour, I'm making the parts, and then they all snap together at the end and they come out. So those things could massively change the manufacturing speed and process, reducing labor content of cars.
I think now the beauty of this is you are 100% correct that the very first place you'd be experimenting with this would be in the factory, and putting more and more of these bots to work in the factory. And then many people have pointed out, not just me, that you have all these suppliers, and Tesla has a unique relationship with their suppliers. I have dealt with so many OEMs and so many large manufacturers over my career. Nobody has the kind of relationships that Tesla has with their OEM suppliers. And we got to make sure that people are not confusing. I'm not talking about the other car manufacturers who sometimes are suppliers to a company like Tesla. I'm talking about the OEMs that are making things like a seat cover, or making something like a knob. Oh yeah, there's no knobs. Nobody thinking, okay, tires. So they're working very closely with their tire manufacturers. They're inventing new tires with their tire manufacturers, and they're helping those tire manufacturers to be more efficient. So whatever it is that these outside guys are doing for them, at any level along the line of the supplier chain, those are all opportunities for Tesla to say, hey, here's 15 places that we've noted in your factory where we'd like to put a bot, and we can get these bots starting to do that work as well. Mm-hmm. They could do that for free. They could do that at some cost. They could do that at some, if the robot does this, then cost. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that they could do that, but it would lower their potential cost just by virtue of them providing the bots. So then you've got the next level. And quite frankly, I think if I was the guy in charge of this entire rollout, I think I would also have a little division, maybe 4 or 5 people that would be actively going out and looking for the best use cases outside of my environment. Mm-hmm. And again, I've mentioned a couple of times, I think print shops might be one of the best places to give this a try, because there's some very, very boring, repetitive work that there's no danger of hurting anybody by virtue of the robot making a mistake. But I could think of dozens and dozens of other, moving Granny from one place to another, who is incapable of moving herself, instead of having nurses breaking their backs, might be a really good one to start early on. So anyway, I think I'd have a little team that would be out there starting to put it into other use cases outside of the Tesla world. And if all that's happening over this next 9 months, between the end of this year and the first 6 months of next year, as they're setting up the production line, as they're getting the brain to be better and better at what it does, as they're getting everything rolling, because they just hired 50, or not hired, they just put out an alert that they wanted to hire 53 more people to work on this project. That's $1 million a month at least. Right. They're not hiring them because they're not ready to start this thing. Okay. Right. So I think that by middle of next year, they start cranking big numbers.
So I think if they got, like 30,000 bots into the factories, their own other suppliers' factories doing work, and then increased production by 10%, right? Because of the, efficiencies, starting up another line, because there's also issues of staffing up lines.
Right.
For the thing that if I get 30% of people off of 2 lines, or whatever, I can then might be able to staff a third line because I'd have 10,000 people and 5,000 bots, 10,000 people, 5,000 bots, 10,000 people, 5,000 bots. I would have moved them around so I can get another line going and get 50% more production out of it. So that's one way they can get a lot more production out of their existing factories. The other thing they can do is they can, if they've got the next generation platform, the Model 2, being designed in Austin, which they said maybe in the middle of next year, if that's doing a lot of the unbox process, they can run a bunch of bots there, and it's all bot friendly.
Right.
Then they may be able to ramp up the Model 2 production way faster, to a higher level next year. So the second half of next year, if they suddenly can ramp to 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 Model 2s out at the end of next year, then maybe not 2024 would be as 2025
right.
would be something where the production levels go up 50%, double, because I'm making millions of Gen 2s with a bot friendly system. I've accelerated the staffing issues around Model 3 and Model Y, and also moved more staff over to the Gen 2. So it's a mix of being able to get more people onto the Gen 2 lines in Texas, in Shanghai, in Berlin to make this stuff. So the impact on production could be huge, and then have a bigger impact even than FSD initially, pre-robotaxi, pre-50% sign up thing. If you're at 20%, that 50% production increase would be bigger. And it's the kind of thing where, just like Tesla went next level with the Model 3 and Model Y, where, people are doubting, you got, X and Y, and you can't scale up and blah, blah. And then suddenly they get 10 times more cars, 20 times more cars from the new models in the new factories. That this is where they go next level with FSD and with bot and production, where basically their manufacturing process, they said, unbox is coming, bots is coming. Those things together make for, 10 million, 20 million Model 2s in 2026, 2027, right?
Right. So then the other side of it is, of course, I love the marketing side of it and the selling side of it. That's what I've done my whole life. So I look at it also because you have I believe, a rental environment. So just for craziness, let's just say they make 1,000 in 1,000 for sale or rent next July, just 1,000. And they rent those out for $5,000 a month, which would be nothing. It should really probably be about $15,000 to $20,000 a month in terms of the use case. Okay, you're going to save that much if you have 3 shifts or 4 shifts. You're going to save $15,000 to $20,000 a month per unit. So, but let's say that my number has been $5,000 a month. So they charge $5,000 a month and they only ship 1,000. Well, that's $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the next month they ship another 1,000. Now that month they bring in 10 million. And they just keep doing this as 15, 20, 25, 30. By the end of the year, you've got, 20, $25 million coming in from just those 6,000 robots that you've sent out. Now, let's say that I'm closer to right, and they can do 10,000 that they can rent in July, mm-hmm. which I think is probably a minimum. They could make 5,000 for themselves and another 10,000 to rent out. Well, now you're talking about $50 million the first month and $100 million the second month, et cetera, et cetera. Now you're looking at real numbers by the end of the year. And then now you're ramping up. It's no longer 10,000 a month. Now you're talking about 100,000 a month. And now you're talking about $5 billion a month in rent per each.
But the thing is, we know that they have to get the numbers up in order to do the training. It's not like it's optional for them. I'm only production limited and all that kind of stuff. Whatever the model is, and ideally they would choose to make it revenue generating, just like they made the beta program of FSD revenue generating and they had autopilot at revenue generating, that they will come up with a revenue generating way as they learn to do it. But they need to get within 2-3 years, 300,000, 1 million bots so that they can do the neural network training. You know, the AI cases means they have to distribute, whether they pay for it themselves and use it themselves, like they like space Elon did with SpaceX with the Falcon 9, where 80% of the launches are launching Starlink. The world wasn't ready to put more payload up there, even though they took the cost way down. The world wasn't ready to do it. Companies weren't ready to do it. But Elon says, I need to get a lot more rockets. I need to get a lot more satellites. And so, you know, screw it.
I'll make trillions of dollars by putting my own satellites up there.
Right. So it's the same thing for this. So the Teslabot, when I make many millions of them, billions of them, it will be worth many, many trillions of dollars. If you guys aren't ready at the initial stage, I will buy it myself. And the other thing is that will not be supply limited, because if I got 2 kilowatts, 3 kilowatt hours per robot, then instead of making 100,000 cars, I can make 50 million robots, right? So then that's the level of production that they can get to with just the batteries and chips. So there won't be chip constraint. Also, charging constraint, because if I need to make a Tesla Semi, a megawatt hour batteries, which is the same as 400, 500 Tesla bots, but that thing is running constantly 100,000 miles a year, then I need to charge that load of the time. I may only need to charge a domestic Tesla bot, once a week, right? So then the issue of, I can just stick it in, plug it into a wall socket overnight when the power is cheap, and then it's good. I don't need stick solar on there. While other things could be logistic infrastructure constrained, where I can't roll, even though I can make 50,000 per year semis, because I can't make 1,000, 5,000 fuel depots, because it took 3 years to make the Pepsi one. I need to work with Sacramento Municipal Utility District, or I need to work with PG&E or something like that. They could be delayed because I guess I can make all the solar, but then I got to turn it on. With Megapack, there could be other things that got to work with that are slowing me down, which would not be the case for Teslabot, because I can just get them out there. I can make them, not limited there, and then charging them is not limited. So, and then getting to package.
And then a lot of people say, well, people, think kind of what you just said a second ago about the satellites, that, people weren't ready to put them up yet, and they didn't really understand the savings yet. This is not going to be that way. Once you put this out there, you go to a couple of industrial shows. I've been to these shows all over the country that are showing all the, different kinds of ways that you can automate your lines and whatnot. And these shows are all over the country all year long, all over the world all year long. You go to a couple of those shows, the word will spread like wildfire, because this is not even like the internet was. I was sitting there waiting for the internet to start. I mean, literally, I was, like now, I'm like you, I'm a futurist. I'm always thinking about the future. And when Al Gore told me, he gave me a call, he says, Randy, it's almost here. But I mean, I was reading the papers and watching the news. And so, I mean, as soon as that thing hit, we started putting together our first website. It took a while. It took about 18 months, 24 months, 36 months before a lot of companies really recognized the value of having a website. But it didn't take very long. It was really about 3 years. But then it took another 3 decades before it was more than 50% of small businesses that got it, because there was not a direct, immediate relationship between the expense the potential for savings or the potential for income. With this one, no, there's like you just say, look, you can have this person who doesn't take breaks, who's not going to use racial slurs in the workplace, who's not going to not show up in the morning because they're hungover, and they're going to cost you less than that employee. No, it's like, are you kidding me? They'll be around the block like they were when Apple, the second year of the Apple iPhone.
The other thing is that they can sell 100,000 a year just from it's a cool robot.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
$20,000, you know, just like the people bought the Roadster, you know, high net worth people bought the Roadsters, kind of like who's the cool person at the party who walks in with their Teslabot, right? Oh, look, you can talk to it. And boy, it's got the best large language models because it got a chip that's 100 times faster and it's got a Starlink connection and all that kind of stuff, right? So just making it the better version of this is like how much iPhone demand there was, right? Where it's like,
Yes.
where it's like you can, because large language models need more compute and that, and you can talk to it and all that kind of stuff. This thing you can talk to, you can load in whatever sensors and stuff like that. Having it be the premium thing would be the premium iPhone, walking iPhone would be a huge, huge market. But you know, I think they'll start with the factory thing because
yes.
Even if they sell 100,000 per year, $1 million per year at $20,000, you know, that's you know, what is it?
They're not going to sell. They're not going to sell them for $20,000.
Yeah.
You're going to have the problem if you sold these for $20,000. You get back into the problem that you had last year with the cars.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, you would go out and you would buy 100 of them. You would hit up every uncle and every guy that you know, and you would buy 100 of these and you would turn around and flip them for $200,000 a piece. Right. Or for $5,000 a month, and then you'd buy more. So no, you can't sell them for $20,000 a month because their value is so much more. Right. So most of the robot guys out right now seem to be selling their robots for around $100,000. So I could see the possibility if they were going to sell them. Maybe it's you might have mentioned this before. I know I'm starting to think this way about the robotaxi also. Maybe if you are a consumer and you're going to use your robotaxi just as a consumer, it costs you $200 a month. Okay. And maybe if you're going to have a robot and you want it for your home and you just want it to be a pal and make your breakfast, you know, it costs you $400 a month. But as soon as you want to start adding on more layers of software, and now it's going to pick up a drill and start putting nuts into or bolts on the anyway, screws into walls, whatever. All of a sudden, no, it costs you a lot more per month when you start doing that. And same thing with robotaxi. As soon as you want to turn it into a robotaxi, not just into a car to take Junior to school, now you got it as a robotaxi. No, that's costing you $2,000 a month or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So I think we agreed that the potential for both will happen faster and be bigger than what people are saying. In terms of the ARK Invest question, the ARK Invest had a thing where there's trying to model out, you know, some kind of end case for it. Where do you think in 20 years? Where are we with Teslabot and
well, you know, I don't know if you saw
some number.
I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you saw it, but they just did one of their brainstorming sessions, or what do they call them? They did one a couple of days ago, and Stephen Mark Ryan did it this morning on his show. Yep. And he was talking in terms of quintillions of dollars. Right. Because you're talking about, again, if it was $500 a month, let's say it was $500 a month for consumers. Okay, you're making enough of these now that consumers get them. How many would you have for your house?
Yeah,
at least one, right?
100. Yeah,
100. No, for your house, just for your house, okay. Not for your business. Five, right? You might have five, one for each person, one as an extra for if it's broken down, whatever. But you know, for $500 a month, you know, it'd be no big deal to have at least a couple.
Mhm.
As you know, I just want mine for the massage. That's all I really care about. Just,
Yeah.
I figure it'll give the best massage ever. It'll never get tired. It'll never say no.
Mm.
And that'd be worth $500 a month. Are you kidding?
Yeah, but I see things basically that once you're past the initial phase, where like if you increased Tesla's production by 4x, 10x, that kind of thing, then Tesla has become a $20 trillion, $100 trillion company, right? But then they're not limited in their production stuff. Then if they're in 2030, you have 6 terawatt hours of batteries. If 2 terawatt hours go to Teslabot, then you're looking at about 1 billion bots per year, right?
Yeah.
So in the 2030s, you can be doing 1 billion bots at a time. And if the demand is that these are revenue generating,
Yeah.
and not that I'm buying it and I'm paying for it, like each one is its own vending machine kind of thing, making money,
Yeah.
then everyone wants it to make money. And then there'll be some model, just like robotaxi, where you're giving Tesla their cuts of it. But then we're transitioning the world in the 2030s to the point where you go from like everyone has horse and buggy to everyone has cars thing, where over the 10 years you start with pick out the one with the car to pick out the one with the horse and buggy, that things utterly transform over those 10 years. And because you're making billions of them. So that means, production wise, they sped up production. It's like everything gets faster and faster. And then by the end of the 2030s, there's that point of like 2 to 5 to 10 bots per person. And people say, oh, where are the jobs? The job is I'm an owner of 10 bots. I'm giving 10%.
I'm deploying them.
I'm deploying them, right? I own my share. It's like universal basic robot, where I, instead of having income, it's like I have my own revenue generating things that are doing stuff for me. So everyone, doesn't need to work, other than the people who are doing research and pushing the boundaries of what we're doing. But if you're saying we need to get by, if I just have a gardening bot, then I can save like $2,000 per month or per year on food, or $5,000
food, yes,
because it's growing vegetables and fruit for me.
Absolutely, yes.
So everyone can have that basic level of stuff where I don't need to be, going to a farmer or a grocery or stuff like that, because I can have my own being raised, herbs and other stuff. Right. So the whole transformation of society happens over the 2030s. Get to really big scale around 2030, and then 2040. By 2040, the world has changed. Where basically everyone's done automation of it, and it's not using that much more power. And then all the manufacturing is faster. And then 2050s and 60s. So I have an analysis of going from the dawn of man to people, yes, to the galactic civilization. And it's basically doubling. How fast do we double? Up until about 1800, the doubling was based on population, because everyone was not any more productive. So the doubling was how long it take to double the people. Then the move from 1820 to today, where things went up 100 times, 8 of that was from the population increase, 12 of that was from the technology. And you keep have this doubling stuff. We can go up 20 doublings, which is 1 million times, by just filling out the solar system. We can get like about 1,000 doublings, 10 doublings 1,000 times on the planet, right? And it would be mostly from the increasing in Tesla bots, where we have like 1 trillion Tesla bots, 100 per person, and then the productivity increase, and then going out on the solar system to get another 1,000 times. So that extra 20 doublings, which is like from 1 million years ago to today, is the kind of scale that we can achieve over 2100. So that's where people say, even Elon says, well, how do we handle this thing, is to use the doublings in order to figure out, like, we double every 25 years. So from World War II to now, we've had like 3.5 doublings, right? So going forward, it's normal pace would be 4 doublings over 100 years. So if we go to the rate of doubling that China had from 1970 to 1990 or so, they were doubling every 8 years. So you can have this 3 times faster doubling rate instead of every 25 years, every 8 years for a country at scale, right? So it is possible. We've done that before. But then the doubling rate of Google or Amazon during their high growth phase of everything was every 3 or 4 years. And then Tesla doubling at every, 50% growth, which is a doubling every 2 years, right?
Yeah.
That's the level you can have for a large company, right? So that's what the whole civilization can head towards, is doubling as fast as China did during their high growth phase, catch-up phase, would be once every 8 years, which would be over the course of 100 or 80 years would be 1,000 times, right? So just going to China's pace, proven pace over 30 years, their high growth pace over 30 years is something that is achievable. If we go to the rate of companies, the fastest growing companies, then you could have this even faster doubling. And some of the companies within this thing would be doubling. So that is the more clear and useful. How fast are you doubling to get to 1,000 times more, 10 doublings, right, to 1,000 times more. And I think that's the kind of future we could have with billions and trillions of Tesla bots. And the production levels is, again, something that we can handle with the battery production that CATL and the others and China is already funded. The benchmark mineral says 6 terawatt hours per year in 2030 is already in the pipeline, right? So then they've been saying it was going to be a glut. We're not going to use up all the batteries, the EVs and the whatever. But then if you have more room,
I think unless we get superconductivity, I think we are going to use it all up. I think there's going to be times when we won't, and the times when we will. But I think we'll be using it all up pretty much.
Okay,
well, that's a wild and crazy future, Brian. It left me with way more questions than answers. One which you and I could maybe discuss sometime, and maybe people would like to put in the comments below. So if the way that I see what you're describing is that maybe by 2040, in a first world country like the United States, virtually everything will be free. Even your house. I mean, it'll be so inexpensive to build a house. It'll be so close to free. The property value might still be there, but if you don't care where you live, if you don't care that you're at the beach and you have a great view, which those are limited things, then it's going to be pretty close to zero to live, because your bot is growing your food, which is free. You've already got free information. You've got free energy coming. We already talked about that. You got free telecommunications. You got free internet. So you're going to get down to the place where all the essentials are free. So you won't need universal basic income because everything's free anyway. Right. What does that do to society? Who are we then, and what do we do? And it's not a matter of not having a job. It's a matter of everything's free.
But we'll have to talk about that next time. But the good question to consider how that will all develop. So thanks for joining me, Randy. And we'll dig in depth more about the Teslabot Next Big Future. Please like and subscribe, join us on Patreon, follow Randy on YouTube. So thanks again. We'll talk next time.